Hello everyone and welcome back to my first Planet Coaster 2 video on the channel. This will be a tutorial on the pathing tool, which is an amazing upgrade from the pathing tool that we had in Planet Coaster 1 and Planet Zoo. So let's dive in. Let's start with the first tool, the line builder. First of all, to access the path tools, you just need to click here on this little icon, paths. You will see that my icons are probably larger than yours because I have set up the user interface to be a bit larger. You can do that on settings in the accessibility settings. At least I prefer the icons to be a bit larger. Then I click on paths over here, this little icon. And there you can see that we have many different options with the new pathing tools. First, we're going to cover line builder. If you want to create a straight line, you just need to click where you want the path to start and where you want the path to end, like this. Now, if we want to have a curved path, we just change this to curve, and now we do need to have 3 clicks. Where we want the path to start, where we want the path to bend approximately, so if I want to create a curve like around here, I click here and then I stretch the path, and there I have my curve. And there we go, we have my curved path. Then we have the second setting here, terrain style. We have either automatic, suspended, or ground. Automatic basically follows the terrain, so if you have this flat terrain over here, the tool will be aligned automatically to the terrain, like we have over here. Then if you want to have suspended, you will see something like this. Let me show you this. You place the path and you will see that it has sort of like a void below it. It's like creating a tunnel or some sort of space below it. This is helpful. Let me show you. If you go to the terrain tools and you go to flatten to foundation, you flatten this below the terrain, below the path, you will see that this path is actually suspended. So it will give you like a small space where you can actually place things like, let's say if I go to terrain here and then I click on water, I can add some water. And you can see the great looking water over here, and it's just at the level of the path. Awesome. So that is the suspended setting. Now the third option that you have is ground, and this is actually quite interesting because with the ground option you will basically be filling the terrain below the path with ground. If I press shift on the keyboard to raise the terrain a little bit, you can see those guidelines. They represent 1 meter of a height. And then I create the path here, an elevated path. You will see that the terrain below the path is filled with ground. So then afterwards you can use the terrain tools to smooth out the terrain or do whatever you want to do with the terrain, but you can also like decorate it with rocks, anything that you think could be appropriate for your park. So those are the 3 options. Then we go to connection. To connect paths, you actually need to have 2 paths, right? So let's say that we have this initial path. We have 2 options for the connection, square or angle. Square connections are basically that, almost like 90-degree angles between the paths, like this. But if you choose angle, you will have a little bit more flexibility because you can see that the path, the new path, will start from the existing path. So it will give you like this kind of a curvy exit, or you can also think of it as an entry into the existing path. So that is the main difference between the square and the angle connections. Then you have line width, because of course we need paths of different widths. We can go from a very thin path, a very narrow path of 4, up to a very wide path of 12. You can, let's compare the 2 widths. Yes, so you can see that they are, and you have all the values in between 4 and 12. So you have a lot of room for customization. You also have this option for fixed length. Right now I have it turned off. So let's say that I want to create a really long path like this. Like this. If I press here, I will be creating the path at the maximum length that I'm allowed to create it by segment. But if I set this to a specific length, let's say 5 meters, look what happens right now. I am limited to that length, 5 meters per segment, so I will be building 5 meters, and I can raise that to 24, which is the highest number that this setting can take. So basically, I will have something like this. It's very nice for fine-tuning those small curves like you have over here. Then you have the camera settings. You have 3 possible settings. Camera will follow, camera moves freely, or camera will follow and rotate. Camera moves freely is basically this. The camera won't be affected by the path that you're placing. You will stay where you are right now. Camera will follow basically follows the trail of the path like this. So you can see that the camera moves along with the path. And finally, camera will follow and rotate. It will also rotate the camera so you're always facing the direction of the path. So you have those options to choose from. They're very, very powerful. I usually like to follow the path, but in some cases I may also choose to move freely if possible. Then you have length snap as well. Length snap will snap to a specific length. And then we have another option called merge, which is super, super nice, a huge improvement over the pathing tool in the previous version. Right now, I have this turned off. So if I go here to customize style, I know that we haven't talked about this tab yet, but this is basically where you can customize how your path will look, the textures and everything. And let's select a different texture, like this swirling path. I've customized the color previously. Let's choose like an orange color, just to make this super clear. Like this, the railing and the path. And now, if I want these paths to intersect, notice that I'm going to go over this path over here. I have merge turned off, so they won't be merged. Notice what happens here. The existing path is untouched. It's kept exactly the same. We are only adding the new path over here. But if I do turn this setting on, look what happens. Now the existing path is like merged with the new path. And it's actually like replaced with the new path. So that's the merge tool. It's super helpful, especially for other tools like the draw tool that we're gonna see in just a moment. And before I go to the final setting, I think I may have skipped angle snap. Angle snap is super helpful because it will give you like an angle that the path will automatically snap to. So let's say that I'm going to turn off the fixed length over here, and I'm going to place the path like this. Now if I turn angle snap on like 45 degrees and I rotate the path, it will snap to a 45-degree angle like this. Now if I turn it on to 90 degrees, well, you can see that it actually snaps to a 90-degree angle. This is super helpful if you want to create, let's say, round paths. I'm going to use the curve feature, and I'm going to use this, then this, then this, and you can see that I have a rounded area over here that I can fill with other tools. I can fill it in with a stamp tool or with a draw tool. But this angle snap is super helpful for that, for creating specific shapes with specific angles. And finally, we have the working height, because as you saw previously, we can create elevated paths and plazas. But the working height basically tells the game what height our path should have. Like, let's say that we want a path to be 4 meters or 6 meters to make this even more obvious. You can see the reference over here, and if you use it, it will automatically have the 6 meters of height that you set over here. I'm going to remove the ground setting, like we're gonna use automatic over here. And And you can see it over here with the supports because I have the supports turned on. I will show you in just a moment how you can toggle that off. If I want to have another path at, let's say, 10 meters, look what happens. You may need to get out of this tool and then back in when you change the working height. Maybe this is something that will be addressed in a future update, but it's something that I've been noticing when I create these paths. But you should have a path with the corresponding working height. Awesome, right? That's what working height is for. And finally, height snap is 1 meter by default, but you can change this. That was for the line builder. Now let's go to the classic paths. The classic paths are basically what we had in Planet Coaster 1 or Planet Zoo if you have played the Planet games before. If you haven't, I will still explain it here in the tutorial so you can have an idea. Let's see. Basically, it's like a more restricted pathing tool that can be helpful for small details, but overall I would suggest using the line builder, but the classic paths could be helpful for certain situations. They have the same settings, basically. They have the terrain style, which is automatically ground and suspended, the connection, angle and square, line width, fixed length, and here the fixed length, we're gonna change the working height to off, so it's on the ground, and we're gonna keep the height snap at 1 meter. We also have the options to move the camera freely, to follow with the camera, and to follow and rotate. So we can make the paths wider, like this one. We can set a fixed length. In this tool, we don't have an option to turn off the fixed length. The minimum length is 4 meters, and the maximum length is 24. And you can write a number here if you want to set it yourself. If you see this gray little background, that means that you can actually write a number like 20 and it will be adjusted. So this is basically the tool. It's similar to the line tool but a bit more limited. You also have angle snap, which is helpful for creating this sort of like circular structure that we have over here. We have merge, on or off, working height, and height snap, which are options that you're already familiar with. So let's jump into the draw tool. Now let's talk about the draw tool over here. Let's go to an empty spot and let me show you, because this is truly a game changer and one of the aspects of the pathing tool that I love the most. In this draw tool, we can basically create anything we want. Like, let's say that I want to create a really like strange looking plaza like this, something like this, like a kidney bean. Yep, I can do that. Basically, what I just did was clicking where I want to have specific points of the path, like I'm drawing this shape. That's why this is called the draw tool. And basically, when you line up the start and the end, the entire area will be filled in with pathing, which is super nice. The draw tool is one of the most powerful tools that we have in the game, and it has these settings. They may seem fewer than the line tool, but they are super powerful. First, we have the line style, which can be curved or straight. We just created a plaza with a curved version, and now with the straight version we can create different shapes like this one, or like this one. Let's say that we want to create something like this. Well, we can do that very easily and the path will be filled in, which is awesome. And then you have the terrain style, automatic, ground, and suspended. Why? Well, because you can also create elevated plazas with the draw tool and suspended plazas. Let me show you an example of a suspended plaza. I'm going to create a small curve over here and it's going to be suspended. So we're going to have like this little void in the terrain below it. I'm going to go to the terrain tools and I'm going to flatten this to foundation a little bit. And now you can see, if I fill it in with water, you can see that the water actually reaches this perfect level for the path. So suspended is a really great option if you want to have people immersed in natural water. Really nice, even with the plazas. And of course, then you have the ground option, which is helpful if you want to create elevated plazas. But for that, you will need to have a working height. Right now it's off. Let's say that I want to create the plaza elevated 8 meters. So I set the working height to 8 meters. And then I draw the plaza like this. And then I can see that it has ground below it. Well, it has like this little like empty spot, but you can fill that in with rocks or you can fill it in with terrain, but it's still creating the ground below it. So that's super nice. You also have the options to add length snap to a specific length, like you can see over here, and angle snap. Here we have 90 degrees, which is helpful for creating circular plazas. I'm gonna set the working height to off right now, and since I have 90 degrees set, you can see how easy it is to create these circular plazas. Let me show you this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I have my circular plaza over here because I have the angle snap on. Super nice. Now, the merge setting, which is the first one that I haven't really discussed about, is one of the most powerful tools because it is a tool for expanding the existing path. When you have the merge setting on, you will be merging the new path with the existing path. Let's say that I want to select a different path. I'm going to select a brick path. And now I'm going to use the draw tool to draw on top of this path. I'm going to turn off angle snap, turn off length snap, and I'm going to work on the ground. Now I'm drawing on top of this existing path, and I have merge turned on. Look what happens. The area on top of the existing path was merged with the new path, and people will be able to walk on it. But if I turn this off like this, look what happens. If I draw on top of the path, now the path will be expanded, but it won't be modified. So basically we're not merging the paths, we are expanding the paths. And that's what merge is for. And this is essentially the draw tool. It's super powerful. So now let's dive into the stamp builder. Great, now let's talk about the stamp builder. The stamp builder is basically using stamps. We have 4 different shapes that we can use to stamp our paths: squares, hexagons, octagons, and pentagons. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to choose a more interesting shape than the square, the hexagon. And I'm going to click here, and you can see how this places an hexagon for the path. Now, there are many settings that we can choose from, but let me show you the shapes first. We have the square, the hexagon, the octagon, and the pentagon over here. Those are the stamps. The stamp scale basically tells you how large the stamp will be. You have 1, 2, and 3. So you can see the relative size. I'm going to put them here. 1, 2, and 3, and the same relative size. You will have that with all the different shapes. Then we have the stamp grid. Right now I have it turned off, but if I want to use the grid, I can place the stamp and that will generate a grid around it, like this. So I can create my own paths, like this, and even expand it. Really cool, right? If you create something with a grid and then you want to turn it off, you can also do that and continue expanding outside of the grid. So this is very versatile. Then you have point snapping. Point snapping is helpful when you want to snap to a particularly important points like this one. You can see that the new stamp is actually like snapping to the existing path. But if we want to turn this off, we can just turn it off and no more snapping. So we can continue expanding the way we want it to expand. Like this. Totally up to you. Then you have rotation snap. You can turn on rotation snap for 15 degrees, 30 degrees, or 45 degrees. So let's say that I have, this is I think more suitable for pentagons. Let me show you this. If I press the C key like this, I can rotate it. I can also rotate it like this by 45 degrees each time because I have rotation snap on. If I change this to 30 degrees, I can rotate it 30 degrees. 15 degrees, I have more of these little points that I can rotate. And I can also turn it off to have a free rotation movement to fit my needs. I can also set the working height of the stamp. You can see that we can set from minus 100 from, let me see, minus 98 meters up to 100 meters, 25 meters, let's say, or 41 meters, like this. Okay? Let me choose something a little bit more like logical, 10 meters. I'm going to place the stamp, and you can see that it's floating 10 meters in the air, but it has the ground because I have the ground setting here. If I choose automatic, it will just add the supports. And I can continue expanding. I can also use the grid is not available when we are setting a working height, okay? So, but we can continue expanding it beyond this without the grid, like this. Really nice. We can also turn on a point snapping, and that will give us like a better idea of where we should place the stamp, like this. Really nice. And finally we have merge, because we can merge the different stamps. Let's say that I want to add a stone shell path like this. I can merge it with the existing stamps, or I can turn this off and just expand the existing stamps. This is the difference. We are expanding when we have merge off, and we are also modifying the existing when we have merge turned on. That's the main difference of this setting. And that's the stamp builder. Now let's go to the rounding tool. Now the rounding tool is super interesting because when you have these like very hard edges on your plazas after using the stamp tool or using the draw tool, you may want to round out some of these like hard edges. You can do that with the rounding tool over here. You can set the strength of the rounding. Let's set it to 8, let's say. Or let's keep it at 12 so you can see this in the maximum effect that it can have. You can also set the brush size because you can see that it's like a brush, so it will affect the area where it's located. So you can increase the brush size, and you can also increase the brush height because you can round elevated paths and plazas. So I'm going to keep these settings, and we're going to round out everything over here. I'm going to select this, and you can see how this is a lot more rounded. You can see this. From the hard edges that we had before, now we have like these wavy edges. And we can even apply this multiple times if it's not really like working, and after a few attempts you will get smoother edges, especially with the stamp tools. It works really nice. And you may also need to edit some points if they are not rounded the way that you want them to be. And for that we have the edit tool, which we will get to in a moment. But this is basically how the rounding tool works. You paint over it and you round the edges. And now let's go to the customize brush. This is also another brush, but it's super helpful if you want to change the texture and the looks of your path. You have the setting of the brush size and the brush height to paint over an existing path. For this tool, you also need to go to this tab, Customize Style, and choose the path style. You have many different styles to choose from. Let's say that we want this blue path, and here you can also customize the colors. I customize the colors a bit. I'm going to change this to purple and yellow just to make this super like obvious. And then At the moment, I don't see a way to reset this to the original color, okay? So be aware that if you change the color, it will stay there, and at the moment, I don't see an option to reset this to the original color. So we have the colors, and we have this customize brush tool selected. So we are going to brush the area that we want to update, and voila, it will be updated appropriately. We can also customize the path that we just customized. So the customize brush tool is basically for this. You can also use this brush to customize the railing and the path extras when you need to update an existing path. And you also have this option to copy an existing texture. If you click here on this option, you can click on an existing path to copy its texture. Let's say that I want to copy this texture over here. I have my brush, and now I can paint over the existing like this. And voila, it will give me the same texture with the same colors. Amazing, right? This is the Customize Style tab. We have many styles to choose from, including a natural path and a sandy path. And some of them are flexi-color. And now we go to Customize Extras. In this tab, Customize Extras, you can add extras to your paths very easily, like railings, like supports, and these extras, bins and benches. Railings and supports work with all the path tools based on what I've seen so far. The extras like bins and benches only work with the tools like the line builder. You can turn them on like this in this setting. They work with the classic paths. They don't work with the draw tool. They don't work with the stamp builder, and basically that. They don't work with the draw tool or the stamp builder, but it makes total sense because you will see this in just a moment. When you want to customize your extras, I'm going to set the working height to off, and yeah, basically we're gonna be back to a small path. I'm going to add a path. And I'm going to set the railing to polished wood railing. I have the railings on, and I also have supports on, but since this is going to be on the ground, I'm not going to need the supports. I also have the path extra on, and I'm going to select the path extra like, let's say the mythology bin 1. If I place down the path like this, look what happens. I'm gonna change this from suspended to automatic so we don't have that void below. This over here. You can see that the bins were added automatically, and even if you place a really long path, they will be added at a specific spacing between them, which is awesome. You can customize the spacing. Right here we have 12, which is the maximum spacing, but if we set this to 4, look what happens. You will get a lot more bins next to each other. Really nice, right? You can also change the placement from alternating like left, right, left, right. You can change this to both sides, like this. So they will be on the same spacing, but on both sides. You can set this to be only on the right. And you can set this to be only on the left. And alternating, which is what we had over here. So you have 4 different settings or where you want to place these path extras. Really, really nice feature. The bins and the benches that you can choose from over here. Currently, these are the path extras that you can add. You can also update the rails and add supports, or remove the supports. For the rails, let's say that you want to change these rails. You don't want them anymore. You just need to click here on painted metal railing or whatever railing you want, and then go to this customize brush tool. And paint over the path, and you will see how the railing is updated. Here the railing is yellow because we set this in the settings when we place the path. The railing was yellow over here. You can see railing area 1 is yellow. Really nice. And finally, for this tool, we have the supports. This is for elevated paths, of course. So we're going to go to the line builder, and we're gonna set the working height to 10 meters. Right now the supports are on, so you can see the supports over here. You can see the supports are on. But if I toggle this option off, now look what happens. No more supports. No more supports over here. So you can turn them off whenever you need to. And that's essentially the Customize Extras tab. Really helpful for saving you time. And just as important as placing paths is deleting paths. So let's see how you can delete the paths. I'm going to set the working height to off. And now I'm going to place the path like this. Well, I'm going to remove the path extras for now, just to show you how we can remove the path. I'm placing the path, and here I go to the delete tab, where I have a delete brush. I can set the brush height and the brush size. So if I brush over the path, I just delete it. But we also have a stamp delete tool, which is super helpful for plazas. Let's say that I use the stamp builder to build a plaza like this, a huge plaza. And I want to have like a space here in the center. I can use the stamp delete tool with the octagon and use a little octagon here. And look what happens. I also get the railing, and the path is deleted inside the plaza. So this is super helpful. You can also expand this wherever you want. Well, it's basically up to you, whatever you do with this tool. It's really nice, super creative, and you can also use the rounding tool inside it. So you can round out the edges on the inside as well. So I'm sure that this will spark a lot of creativity. That is the delete tool. And finally, we're going to go to the edit tool, because we haven't really touched this tool during the tutorial. The edit tool is super helpful for editing existing paths. It will help you to adjust the position and height of the different segments of your path. So let me show you this. Let's say that over here you don't like this little point over here that is too it's not rounded. Well, now you can click on it and you can move it with this option over here. You can move it, drag it, and just readjust the path to fit your needs. Like this. Now you have a wave instead of a peak over here. You can also extend the selection here and drag it outside or move it wherever you need to. You can also extend this over here and change the path after it has been placed. So it's super helpful. Let's say another example would be something like this. You have this little corner. You can fix it very easily by dragging this point outwards. And voila. You can also take this point like this and move it to round out this corner. You will see a preview of this, and like this. So the edit tool is really helpful. You can, with this angle bracket, if you select an entire segment over here on the outer edge, you can extend this with the angle brackets, and then the move operation will affect the entire segment that you have selected. And here this icon will take you to the draw tool, so you can draw based on the existing section like this. So if you have, for example, merge turned on, I'm gonna show you what this does, like this, something like this. You go to the draw tool and then you draw based on that segment, and you can expand the existing path. It's really awesome. I love these new tools. They're super powerful. They do take some time to get used to them, but once you're used to them, I promise you that you will love them. And finally, we're gonna talk about queues and the staff paths, which are two different types of paths than the general paths that we've been talking about. Queues are the paths that you place when you want your guest to enter a ride. For example, let's say that I want to place a flat ride over here. I'm going to use a blueprint, this one, the tiny eye, and I'm going to rotate it with the C key, like this. And I'm going to place a queue over here. you need to place a cue on the entrance where the arrow is going into the right, like this. This is a cue. You place it, and there you go. This is where guests will wait in line in the queue to enter your ride. It has many different options, fewer than the general paths, but you have the line builder, the classic paths, and you also have the customized brush, and these are the styles that you can customize this to. They're also flexicolor. This is basically the queue, so you would connect it to the main path, and guests would enter over here and they would exit over here through a normal path. You have the same options that we had in the line builder, but for the queue, you are already familiar with them. And for the staff paths, they're basically the same as well. You're already familiar with all of these options. And you have the tools that we had for the normal paths. The only difference are the styles and the fact that only staff can walk on these paths. So you have this default style. You can also customize the colors to fit your needs and the style of your park. So here I customize the colors. You can see how this looks. And you can also customize this. You can add railings and supports. You can customize the railings as well and use the customized brush on the path. So, yep, basically you have all the essential tools for queues and for paths as well. And this was my full tutorial on the path tool. I hope you found it helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Share your comments. What do you think about the path tool? I love it. I personally think it's super powerful, and I would love to see it in Jurassic World Evolution 3 and especially in Planet Zoo 2. Please let me know if you would like me to record any other tutorials on Planet Coaster 2. What would you like to learn more about? Let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to help, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much, have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video.